Does this, by chance, look familiar? If you're a World of Warcraft player, then it most certainly should, because this is Tirisfal Glades, but it is Tirisfal Glades in Baldur's Gate 3. So apparently there is this fan-made custom campaign adventure that has been released for Baldur's Gate 3, and it is the starting experience for Forsaken players in World of Warcraft in Baldur's Gate 3. And if you've watched my channel for a while, you know that I'm a really big fan of Forsaken in World of Warcraft, and so I had to check this thing out. Because the idea of playing World of Warcraft like in a proper RPG D&D-esque setting sounds freaking awesome. And there's going to be a few surprises in this video that I think are going to delight you just as much as they've delighted me. And before we get started, I do have to say two things. First, this mod is only the little starting town for Forsaken players in World of Warcraft, so Death Knell if you've played through there. And the second thing I have to talk about is Zygor, this channel's sponsor. If you are a World of Warcraft player, which most likely you are, at least I would think so, Zygor is WoW's ultimate guide add-on for leveling or getting achievements, pets, mounts, whatever you want. Zygor can help you level up your professions. It can't help you make friends though, I'm sorry. Anyway, Zygor is linked down below in the description. Check it out. And if you decide that you want to purchase it after playing the free trial, you can use code NIXIUM for 20% off. So the story of course begins with me creating a character to experience all of this with. Don't assume that they've done something like brought all the classes in World of Warcraft into Baldur's Gate 3. That's not what they've done here. It's still the Baldur's Gate 3 classes. So I ultimately came to the conclusion that I thought it would be kind of cool to play as a paladin, almost like this noble man who is going and helping the Forsaken reclaim a little bit of their humanity, a little bit of their culture, a little bit of their livelihood after it was stripped away by the Lich King and stuff. You know, I really wanted to get into, you know, the RPG element, you know what I mean? So unfortunately, maybe at least not yet, there is no narration that begins the new campaign. Instead, you're just thrown immediately into the crypt that all Forsaken players start in. The crypt is certainly very large and very spacious compared to its World of Warcraft counterpart, and there is this curious little coffin thing sitting here, but we're going to talk more about that down the road, and you're going to see what's hidden inside. So you make your way upstairs, and the Undertaker is waiting for you, and he of course gives you the quest to go down into Death Knell and to present yourself to the Shadow Priest guy, whose name I can't remember, down in the ruins of the old church. Now, although it was very tempting to just run down there and start questing, I do have to admit, I kind of went on a quick little binge of just exploring the area, because this was like a faithful recreation of Tirisfal Glades. I'm actually going to put some footage side by side in this video so that you guys can see, and so that I can see, like while I'm editing this video, like just how faithfully recreated this Baldur's Gate 3 campaign adventure thing is to the original World of Warcraft experience. So once inside the town, you of course get the quest to go and kill the undead that are wandering around in like the center of Death Knell. However, I was very curious how the game was going to handle this, because in Baldur's Gate 3, you don't really like go and like, you know, fight one enemy at a time. Usually it's like great big group encounters. And I was pleasantly surprised by this. So once you step outside after getting this quest, you will see this very large army of undead approaching the barricaded area that you're in. So what ends up happening is you fight this small army alongside the death guards that are defending this little portion of the village. And it actually was kind of tough. Like, I almost died during this very first fight, and I realized that this little adventure of going through the starting experience was not going to be as simple as maybe in the World of Warcraft side of things. Some of the death guards even died, unfortunately, but in the end, we were victorious. You know, Ulrich had led the Forsaken to victory and had inspired hope within their hearts. And that is cool. Now, the quest that I had gotten is a little bit different from the World of Warcraft counterpart. In the World of Warcraft version, you just go and kill like the undead wandering around in the town. But in this version, it specifically tells you to go to the blacksmith and clear out the undead that are present there. So I made my way over to this little corner of the village, and I was quickly overwhelmed by just how many undead were waiting inside. Ultimately, I got my ass handed to me and I was dead. And I kind of sat there and was like, how the hell are you supposed to do this? Like, that's a lot of guys. And that's when I realized something. When I restarted all the way back in the crypt, If you guys remember, I had said that there was like this little like sarcophagus, this coffin, whatever, that you could interact with down there. If you click this, it actually allows you to recruit members into your party, and you can customize them however you want. I only made 3, so that way I had a full party, and then I went back down into Death Knell to try again. And one of the things that I did before I engaged the army of undead that's coming at the, the little defended area of Death Knell, is I actually explored a little bit of that section of the town, and I found an alchemist's fire, and this was incredibly useful in the fight against the undead. I will say that fighting the undead with a full party was certainly a lot easier. There still was certainly a good challenge to it, and it was just a ton of fun, having people like up on the high ground, like shooting and casting spells, while Ulrich was in there, just like buffing people and stuff. It was the Baldur's Gate 3 experience, what can I say? But it was WoW, so that was cool. After disposing of the little wave of undead, I did make my way back over to the blacksmith hut, and I tried to go with like a stealthy approach to taking these undead down, specifically using the rogue in my party, but admittingly, it's been a long time since I've played Baldur's Gate 3, so I was kind of like screwing up the stealth mechanic a bit, or more specifically, like I didn't remember how to like separate one person from the other 3 so they could wander off on their own and the other 3 wouldn't follow or something. So I'm struggling a little bit, but the point is I did get my guys in a decent position and I was able to take on the undead. Now, yeah, I might have messed up like, the stealth attack thing, but my party was doing very, very well until Ulrich got massively critically struck by this one undead. You want the challenge when it comes to playing D&D because that's one of the things that makes it fun. I dispatched the undead, I looted around in the blacksmith hut for a little bit, got a few items that I could sell to a vendor, including a helmet for my character Ulrich, and I was happy, I was having fun. I made my way back to the little barricaded area of the town, and this is when I realized that there is a vendor that is present in one of the homes across the street from the church, and in the Baldur's Gate 3 adventure, this vendor sells some really good items, like fantastic, enchanted items and stuff that can really add to your experience playing the game. Immediately, it put me in a mindset of go out, gather little things, trinkets, whatever, bring them back, sell it to this guy, and get some of this really good gear for my party. And I love that sort of vibe in a game. And so that was what I was committed to doing. I went back out into Death Knell. I was going into the various houses and stuff. And a few times I even got to have the proper sort of D&D experience of encountering a locked lockbox, and my rogue got to step up. They got to roll a D20 to see if they could unlock it. I fought some new enemies that were hidden in the homes. I found like some supplies for doing alchemy and stuff, which I don't think is fully fleshed out yet in the mod. I didn't really play around with it too much. I also ended up wandering off into the woods because I had to go kill those spiders, if you remember the WoW quest, and I encountered some wolves. If you remember, there are wolves and bats all over Death Knell, but in this version, no bats, just a bunch of giant pissed off wolves who I was very quick to dispatch with my party. I think I was getting the hang of it, getting back into the Baldur's Gate 3 sort of stuff. Took a short rest or so just to heal up my party after the fight, and I was ready to go into the spider cave. And I had some really high expectations for this one, and I was not disappointed. You'll see why. So the spider cave, or well, the abandoned mine, I should say, it is defended by a couple of spiders outside, but after getting inside, it just kind of blows my mind like how accurately this all is recreated. I mean, even like the little tunnel off to the side as soon as you walk in, like the mod author clearly is a huge World of Warcraft fan. I just really appreciate it. I spent a while going through the mine, killing all these spiders, definitely some good challenging fights being surrounded by all these arachnids, and I ultimately stumbled across this locked door that my rogue was able to step up to, and by rolling the d20 I was able to unlock it. And this is new, this is not in World of Warcraft. For those that have never played WoW by chance, there isn't like a locked door here, but in this game the author put it here that way you could take this little side path to get the jump on like the matriarch spider and all the other spiders in the final room. Any of these little flavorful things that I encountered while playing this, I just thought was so cool. Like, anytime the D20, popped up, I was like, oh yeah, man, like I'm a big D&D player behind the scenes. I play a lot of D&D, usually every weekend here at my house with my friends. I mean, I have a fully dedicated D&D room in my house, fun fact. Yeah, so big fan. Fighting the large matriarch spider was definitely challenging. Right in the beginning of the fight, my wizard got his ass kicked and taken out, and I was forced to contend with all of these spiders in this final room with just 3 guys. I was throwing potions, healing, buffing, you know, doing everything that I could. Ulrich was just the ultimate support. It was so much fun playing the paladin, man. It's one of my favorite classes in D&D to play as. And ultimately, we were able to overcome the matriarch. So no wipes in this dungeon, thankfully. And this is when I saw that there was a treasure chest hidden back here in the cave. And when I opened it, there was a bunch of gold. There was some enchanted items, some shoes, a dagger for my rogue. That is awesome. There was a spell scroll, dude. So cool, like just having like the reward at the end of the dungeon. And then it was time to go back to, of course, Death Knell to turn these quests in and to get the one quest that I was most looking forward to ever since I started this little playthrough, and that is, of course, to fight the Scarlet Crusade. The Scarlet Crusade, a bunch of people that believe that everybody is tainted by the corruption of the Scourge other than they, and they use the holy light to go out and to cast judgment upon the world, using it like a weapon against those who are innocent, guilty, it doesn't matter. And my character Ulrich, a virtuous paladin who actually believes in true discernment, yeah, he had a particular vendetta against the Scarlet Crusade, and so I was very excited for this quest. It was around this time that I also leveled up, so yes, there is leveling. You're not leveling in the Baldur's Gate 3 version as fast as the World of Warcraft version, but you know, I was level 2 and I was happy choosing all the new spells and abilities for my party, and now it was time to head off to the Scarlet Camp. There was a lot of Crusaders, and I reattempted my little stealth technique and was actually very successful with it. Right in the beginning, I was able to pick off one of the Crusaders with my rogue, and then it turned into an absolute bloodbath. My party versus the Scarlet Crusade, as well as, of course, Mevrin Korgal, who is the main guy that we had to kill, who has the Scarlet documents on him that we have to collect. I will say that he is in a different location in the Baldur's Gate 3 version than he is in Classic WoW, so keep that in mind. The fight lasted for a little while. My wizard, he got his ass kicked again, but I got some really epic moments with Ulrich the Paladin of him just smashing down these Crusaders left and right. Of course, there was a treasure chest at the Scarlet Camp that I could loot, and of course, there were some nice items in there that my party could collect, and with the Scarlet documents in hand, it was time to go back to Death Knell and to conclude this quest. I will say that the spider quest definitely took a lot longer and I felt was a lot more challenging, but that might have just been because of the fact I got a really good jump on the Scarlet Crusaders with my rogue, and I was able to take out, you know, their guys pretty quick with her early on. But yeah, it was still a lot of fun. The final quest that I had to do that I had not done at this point was to go and fight Samuel Phipps. This is a quest that you can get in World of Warcraft, and what you do is you go and kill this man, you collect some of his remains, and then you go to the little graveyard next to the church in Death Knell, and you bury it so that he can be at peace, you know, finally once and for all. At this point with this fight, I think I was so like now in tune with the Baldur's Gate 3 playstyle. You know, it's been months since I've played Baldur's Gate 3, but you know, now I'm kind of like back in, you know, I'm in the zone, and this fight was pretty easy for me. You know, I just cleaved through these guys, controlled them really, really well with my party. I would actually love to go through this again with like 2 people instead of 4 and see how challenging that is. And I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that at this point, my group synergy was just really, really good. So getting Samuel's remains, going back to the church, burying them, it was the final quest, and it was great. So in World of Warcraft, there's a few other quests that you can do in this area, like scavenging Death Knell, for example, where you go and collect all the boxes. And of course, the one where you have to go and kill the wolves and the bats and collect their paws and their wings and stuff. Those 2 quests, I don't think are in this little campaign thing in Baldur's Gate 3. If they were there, then I might have just accidentally overlooked them, but I don't think they were. But after Samuel Phipps was dead and his remains were buried, I was done. Like, I had finished everything that this little campaign had to offer. Do not be deceived by the length of the video, because this is Baldur's Gate 3. It's, you know, more of a role-playing game, a lot more slower paced than WoW. This was, you know, a decent little play session. I don't know exactly how long I was playing for, but if it was like an hour and a half to 2 hours, that wouldn't be surprising. You know, this was a proper little experience in Death Knell in Baldur's Gate 3. I was curious though what would happen though if you tried to leave the Death Knell area. So I made my way down towards the exit of this particular area of Tirisfal Glades, and something caught my eye as I was walking. It was a house in the distance. Now, this is not in World of Warcraft. This is just like a house that the mod author has put into the woods nearby. So you better believe I ran over there as fast as I could to explore and, you know, see, you know, what the heck is this thing? And what I found inside was a treasure chest with some gold and a little gem that sold for a good bit of money. So maybe if I had done the Samuel Phipps quest earlier, I could have found this, I could have went back to the vendor, I could have sold this stuff and made some money, and I could have gotten more of that enchanted gear early on before I fought the Scarlet Crusaders, or maybe before I went and fought the spiders, you know, or something. So I just thought this was really cool. It was just something to discover that was new in this Baldur's Gate 3 version of the game. I will say that I did have to fight a couple of wolves in order to reach that final area where the exit is to the Death Knell, you know, territory of Tirisfal Glades. But after dispatching this canine menace, I made my way to the barricade and found that it was completely sealed off. However, I will say one thing. While I was making my way down to this area, something that I noticed in the very far distance when I zoomed in on my camera is you could see the Agamand Mills. This is the area that new Forsaken players tend to have the experience of realizing that World of Warcraft is not a game that you're supposed to overcome all on your own, because that crypt is a pain in the ass. And it is true that the mod author has said that they are trying to recreate more beyond just Death Knell. It's not just going to be this little area and that's it. I think they're trying to do all of Tirisfal Glades in the future. Maybe they'll do more of the starting zones, or, you know, who knows, like maybe we'll see a Silver Pine Forest down the road. But this was the conclusion. Like, I was ready to leave this area and venture out into the greater world, and I gotta say, it was a lot of fun. Pros and cons. My favorite thing was, of course, just bringing the D&D element into World of Warcraft. Anytime that D20 die popped up, I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like, you know, unlocking locked stuff or whatever, like just making those checks. I thought it was fantastic. The fights as well were a lot of fun. It was not designed as like a, oh, hey, if you've never played Baldur's Gate 3 before, you can just hop in here and just play through it. You probably want to have some experience with D&D or Baldur's Gate 3, or this might be a little bit like, whoa, a little overwhelming. Really appreciated that after clearing the spider cave, there's a treasure chest waiting with some loot. Kill the Scarlet Crusaders, treasure chest with some loot. So having those rewards for being able to overcome the fights and the challenges, that was great. Of course, recreating and staying true to the World of Warcraft Forsaken questing experience. I've been playing a Forsaken in World of Warcraft since 2005. It's one of my favorite races in the game. I can play through Tirisfal Glades just in my brain with my eyes closed, just doing every quest and seeing every tree, every blade of grass. Like, I got it all memorized in my head. And so seeing it so faithfully recreated in Baldur's Gate 3 was fantastic. In regards to cons though, I don't have any. This was a lot of fun. I'm waiting for more. Like, give me more. I want to see the Agamand Mills crypt. You know, I would even like it if this dude wanted to go, you know, a little crazy with it, maybe even break the, you know, the faithful recreation of World of Warcraft. I would like for him to even take that Agamand Mills family crypt and make it like a proper, like, big sprawling dungeon, and not make it as simply designed as it is in World of Warcraft. You know, it's just like 2 or 3 levels or something. So, but that's just me kind of geeking out a little bit. You know, it's a little geek out. Guys, thank you for watching. If you would like to check out this mod yourself, it is linked down below in the description. Highly recommend showing it some love, and I will see you all with my next video.